Good morning. We're going to talk about the plaque of Ergastines, 438 to 432 BCE. And this is a frieze on the Parthenon, which is made of marble, and obviously in Athens because it's on the Parthenon. And why it's different is that it's a frieze. And the Doric order did not have a frieze. And this is on the inside where the statue, the cult statue would have been, and then it runs all the way around at the top on this frieze, which is 520 feet, 520 feet long. It's 3 feet tall, which is, I don't know, about the height of maybe a table, maybe not quite that tall, but it's pretty tall, and it goes 525 feet all the way around the Parthenon, the interior wall of the Parthenon. So where the cella was is where it went. And this portrays the Panathenaic procession that would have taken place starting in the Agora, and then the procession proceeded up to the Parthenon. And it was a celebration that took place every 4 years. And the women of the city wore a new woolen peplos, and they carried one to the Acropolis to clothe the statue of Athena up there. And that would have been the statue that's outside, the one that's really, really large, that the helmet and the spear you would have been able to see from miles away. The frieze portrays these graceful women walking in a procession. And so what's so different and unique about that is that it was the first time in history at this point where we're actually seeing real people, real women. These aren't goddesses portrayed on a temple, which was very unusual. And you can see the folds of the fabric of the clothes that they're wearing, the details of their sandals, the details of their clothes, and the outline of their body. They're very graceful. And this would have been painted. It would have been painted really brightly. So from the ground level, you would have been able to see it. If, now as it stands, if it was up there so high, we probably would not have been able to see much of the detail on this. But having it been painted, brightly colored, it would have been very different to look at. The underlying message of all of this is Athenians are healthy. They're vigorous people. We're united in a democracy, and they're looked upon of favor by the gods. And you can see there's some Athenian man standing there also looking very healthy. So this wasn't just women. This was also men of Athens at the time. And it's a bit different from what we're seeing in the archaic period as far as the flow of the draperies and the movement. And we can see the outline of their bodies. So women at this point are still being dressed in Grecian form. It says the Athenians representing themselves, their own people, with high self-worth. Okay, there's a video on this, but that was included in your homework, so we're going to move on. And now we're going to go to here. We're going to the Temple of Athena Nike. And this was just to the right as you walked up through the Propylaea. And so it was right there on the edge. And you can see that this temple is an Ionic temple, and you can see that by the volutes on the capital, and the columns are thinner. They seem to be taller, and it seems a little bit more feminine. This was destroyed by the Turkish occupation in the 17th century and was recently rebuilt in 2012. So when the Parthenon was filled with explosions, or explosives, and then blew up, this also was destroyed as well. And only recently, you can see by the different colors on it where they have patched it, and they're trying to put it back together. And of course it will never be what it was, but at least it's standing and we can appreciate it for what it was. So you can see the floor plan here too, where you have the columns here and the columns here. And that's very important that you know that is amphi-proto style. And we'll go to the next slide. So we can actually see this in a reconstructed view. And inside would have been the statue of Athena Nike. And this was built in victory over the Persians in the Battle of the Marathon. And like I said, it has the 4 columns in front here. And you can see a little bit of on the back there. And you also can see here is our little parapet wall right here, which is what we're going to talk about next. And we're going to talk about the victory adjusting her sandal. So let's go to the next slide, which is here. And on this little parapet wall, which is where this little sculpture would have been, and they ran all the way around this little parapet wall. And the reason they built that wall was because if you looked back on the previous slides, you can see that this is really close to the edge here. And I suppose it got dangerous, and they thought, well, we should probably build a little wall there so that people don't fall down off of the Acropolis. And so they built that little parapet wall, and like Grecians do, they decorate everything. And so we have all these little Nikes going around, and they all have their own personalities and different attitudes that adorn this little wall, this little short wall. All about victory. And so let's talk a little bit about her. And again, we want to talk about, this is where we have a frieze, so I just want to point out the difference in a Ionic order as opposed to the Doric order, where we have a frieze on the Ionic order where we don't have one on the Doric. And then we're talking specifically about here, this little parapet wall, where our little Nike is now. She's adjusting her sandal, which easier adjusting, is she taking the sandal off or is she putting the sandal on? We don't really know, but it's a very human type of thing to do. And I think the assumption is that she's taking the sandal off because she's going to be walking on holy ground. And let's talk about her drapery and how revealing it is. This is called wet drapery because it's so revealing. We see her thigh here and her full leg, her other leg up here, and we see her breasts here. It's very revealing. We know exactly what's going on under this drapery. And there's a little bit of eroticism going on as well. It would be lovely to see her face. Wouldn't it be lovely to see what her face, our actual face, looks like with all of this beautiful draping going on? Let's go to the next slide so you can see a side view. Again, our theme is victory. And here you can see the side view of what she looks like from the side. It is a bit of an awkward position to be creating a sculpture, but like I said, it's a very human type of position, because that's what you would be in if you were taking your sandal off. And this deeply incised drapery and the folds that reveal much of the body. Again, this is called wet drapery because it is so revealing, and you can see the body underneath, almost erotic.